The hero of my life has been my grandpa. His life lessons of everything pertaining to my growing up will never be forgotten. When I was just a young child, he would take me and my cousins fishing. We would always tell stories and just chit-chat for hours while we did so. Of everything I got to do with my grandpa, it will never be forgotten. Since after his death, his love for fishing and nature would be passed to me. I think that I might just be a little bit more adventurous, though. I took my John boat a little bit later and I threw it in the bed of my truck, tied it in, set it out, and on a day's worth of a drive to my favorite fishing site. It was also my Gramps as well. After a long 4 hours of driving, I finally arrived at the lake, and it was already about 11 a.m. I needed to hurry and get into the water and cast a line if I even wanted to catch any amount of fish worth the drive, since I had to go to work the next day. After about a half hour, I started getting bites and hits, but no draws, no pulls. And this was okay, because the day, it was still young. Later, or quite a bit later, if I knew that I wouldn't be catching anything, I would have just done something else. Because you need to be in the water super early to get a catch anyways. As I was getting all my gear put back up and getting ready to start rowing back to shore, I heard a faint voice. I heard it say, "Hello." I looked around, shuddered, because the draw of seeing nothing but hearing hello was actually freaking me the fuck out. I heard it again. Only this time, I looked further out and close to the other side of the lake on the shore, and I saw a man. He was wearing a hat and suspenders. And this really freaked me out also because the more I stared at him, the more he resembled my grandpa. He said hello one more time, and then began to, and I'm not kidding, but he began to float over to me. And as he got close to my boat, I saw that he was reaching out to give me something. It was a pocket watch. And he told me that I would be late. And then he disappeared. Okay. I shouted pretty loud this time, and I began to row as fast as I could. And as I got close to the shore, I began to think about something and realized what the ghostly person was saying. He was actually telling me that I would be late for work tomorrow, since I would be getting home so late. Look, this actually happened, and I don't know how to explain it. In fact, I'm not going to worry how to explain it. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. when I got home, and the next morning, I didn't even hear it. In fact, I didn't even get up till like 11 or so. My work called, of course, and they left a message. And it went something like this: "If you don't come in, you're fired. This is your last warning." I called my boss and I told him that I would be seeing a psych doctor very soon. This has officially been the worst fishing trip of all time. I've been on a lot of fishing trips, but this one may just be my last. No, this one is definitely my last. I've been stuck on this boat for 3 days now. I'm trying to keep my composure, but at this point, I might as well cut my losses. Even if help did come, I doubt they would be able to save me from it anyways. Let me explain. 3 days ago, my 4 friends and I came out here off the Gulf of Mexico to fish. My friends' names were Frederick, Joseph, Alex, and Miguel. We all love fishing with an intense passion. In fact, when we weren't busy with anything else, we could be found fishing. We had been to almost every pond, every river, and every lake. However, for the first time, we were going for a bigger challenge. We were come here to the Gulf to catch ocean fish. We had never gone on the ocean before, but with our love of fishing, we were all on board. No pun intended. That brings us to now. Well, that brings us to 3 days ago. Everything started off fine. We caught a few fish, had a few beers, shared a few laughs. We were pretty much 5 drunken idiots having a good time on the ocean. And it was all fun and games until things became strange. Later that day, as we were about ready to pack up and sail back to land, we all became tense. It felt like that we weren't alone. It felt like there was something near us, but we didn't know what. Miguel brought it to our attention that there was unnatural movement of the water. He was right. The water was making waves, and they weren't real or natural waves that water typically makes. These looked as though they were being made by something moving within the water. It couldn't have been us, as the waves were coming towards us. At that point, we were ready to get the hell out of there. Frederick went to the radar of the boat, and he became troubled when he could see that there was something on the sonar about 1,200 meters away. But it was moving closer. I didn't know a thing about radar sonar, about reading sonar, but from what I could tell, whatever was out there was big. And big, it isn't even good enough a word to describe it. Whatever it was gargantuan. Alex panicked. He pushed Frederick and I out of the way and desperately tried to crank up the boat, but it was dead. How could that be possible? That's when Alex told us that there appeared to gas floating away from our boat. It was obvious what was going on. Somehow the boat had a massive leak, and we were too drunk to notice. We were stuck in the middle of the ocean with something approaching. We all decided to go inside and take shelter until help came. We were hoping that it would be soon. About 30 minutes later, we felt a light thud against the boat. Frederick looked at the sonar once again. Whatever it was right under us. Joseph ran outside and quickly panned around the boat. We all followed behind him and did the same thing. All that was seen was an absolutely massive silhouette. I can't exactly describe what it was, but the silhouette shape was all types of wrong. All types. I could distinctly tell that it had fins, but there was literally all I was able to distinguish. Everything else about this creature was unable to be named. None of us were able to identify what this thing was. Frederick began to panic as the capture circled around the boat. He ran back inside to desperately try to crank up the engine again, but to no avail. Now this is where things really took a turn for the worse. This thing circled the boat both day and night. We slept inside the boat that night. Unfortunately, when we woke up the next day, Alex was gone. There There was a trail of water leading from where Alex had fallen asleep to the edge of the boat. It was pretty clear that Alex had been taken. That thing took Alex. Frederick became absolutely livid. He began taking the equipment and throwing it at the beast. Joseph screamed for him not to get too close, but it was too late. A large tentacle submerged from the depths and wrapped inside of Frederick. It wrapped around Frederick. We all jumped up and ran to Frederick's aid, and we managed to grab hold of Frederick's ankle, but we were in a desperate tug of war with the beast. Frederick frantically screamed. I held on to him with all my might. Miguel and Joseph were stabbing the tentacle with their pocket knives, and it didn't seem to faze it. With one more mighty pull, the creature pulled Frederick from my grasp. We all fell to the ground. Miguel proceeded to vomit when he saw that Frederick's lower leg was still in my arms. I threw the leg away from me, and I threw up as well. That night, not one of us got a wink of sleep. I think Miguel had started to go mad. Since we were out of beer, we were all becoming extremely dehydrated in the daytime heat. I think Miguel was managing to sneak a few gulps of seawater when he had the chance. I could tell he was becoming sick, and he would spend half the time vomiting, and he's rambling about nonsensical things. Joseph and I became concerned of being around him at this point. Then, there was earlier today. Miguel unexpectedly pulled his knife on Joseph and stabbed him in the abdomen. Joseph fell to the deck, and I pushed Miguel so hard that he fell overboard. He screamed and thrashed in the water for about a minute before I heard the sound of him being pulled under the water. Then there was silence. There was complete and utter silence. Here we are now. How did things escalate so quickly? Joseph bled out a few hours ago. All I could do was watch him die, as there was no first aid kit. Frederick threw the first aid kit at the well. I feel like most of this could have been avoided if we were smarter in a crisis, but we're not. We weren't. It's been 3 days, and I'm stuck on this boat with no food or water. I'm beginning to have disturbing thoughts. I'm thinking about eating Joseph's carcass. I'm thinking about throwing myself off the deck. This thing is still circling the boat, and I don't think it intends to leave anytime soon. I don't think it's going to leave until I give in as its prey. With that being said, I don't think I'll be going fishing again anytime soon. If anyone out there ever decides to go fishing, don't be stupid. Be prepared for whatever may come. I'm as good as dead, and this trip is without a doubt the worst fishing trip I will ever go on. To be honest, I think this is my last fishing trip. I'll most likely be dead. All this time, we were out here hunting for a meal. We never thought the table could turn so quickly. I'm going to try to last for as long as I can, but there's no food, there's no water, and yes, this is definitely the worst fishing trip of all time, and this is definitely my last fishing trip.